Welcome to the Who Needs It podcast, a podcast you didn't need. My name's Dalton, and my co-host is Harris. You'll hear from him in a bit. He was supposed to record this part, but his microphone sounds like he recorded it inside of a garbage disposal, so here I am. This episode was recorded at the end of January, so some of the topics might be a little bit outdated, but hopefully you still enjoy. Also, if you haven't noticed, Harris is Bosnian. Alright, so...
Okay,
Harris,
real
what
quick,
have you
speaking
been
of
up to?
Jesus, can I...
Oh, you can talk about Jesus. I mean, you're a Muslim, so I don't know if you can. If that's
We're gonna
legal.
have to cut that out.
Okay, that's fair. Alright, Harris, what have you been up to recently?
Well, speaking of Jesus, I found out that apparently in the Beyblade universe, Moses parted the sea with a Beyblade.
I mean, that makes sense. So you telling me the Beyblades have, like, always existed? Like, in the Beyblade universe, they're just, like, the one constant thing in the universe is that there's Beyblades?
I guess so. Like, instead of man discovering fire, he discovered a spinning top.
He discovered he discovered Beyblades.
Yeah, he was like, unga bunga, oops, here's a spinning blade. Yeah.
Yeah, and what was it, like, on the second day, God made Beyblades.
Yeah, that's how it went. I definitely read that somewhere.
Yeah. So are you getting into Beyblades, or you just read
Oh,
that
absolutely
Beyblades
not.
book?
I just saw that on some social media, and I was like, this is insane. I am so happy that I saw this.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's interesting. For a split second, I forgot what Beyblades were, because I was thinking of Bakugan, but...
Yeah, completely separate.
Completely different
separate
things.
market audience. Yeah.
I don't know if they're different market. I think it's still marketed to children, but, you know.
Well, speaking of markets, I know we were going to talk about what we've been doing, but I think this is a perfect jumping off point into our first topic of what market Palworld is going after and the entire Palworld experience.
Okay, have you played Palworld yet? Because I have not.
I have
I think
not.
it costs money, so I'm not going to buy it. Especially when it's probably going to be off of Steam in like the next 3 weeks anyways, when Nintendo's lawyers get enough stuff around to actually start suing them, so...
Have you seen Nintendo's statement?
It seemed pretty passive, but I don't know if that's just like legal speak to like not get in trouble yet before they have all the evidence gathered. Is that what you kind of thought about it?
Yeah, I thought it was also like the most subtle, like, we're coming after you that I've ever heard. Because they're like, we really want to keep up the integrity of our Pokemon world. And then they were like, and we will do what we need to get it.
Yeah, I just don't understand so the game was just made by like some Japanese small indie company who looks like they kind of stole all the assets allegedly. I don't actually know what's going on there, but it just seems like
everything's
Rust,
alleged, but they definitely stole it allegedly.
Yeah, it just seems like a Rust or like Ark Survival Evolved game, but instead you have pals instead of Pokemon that you can give guns, and then you could also butcher those pals and sell their flesh, or sell them, or catch humans and then butcher them and sell their flesh, or just sell humans. So, I mean, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah,
That's
it's like if Americans made Pokemon.
Yeah, I just don't. Do you get the appeal of it at all? Because it seems like it's. I know it's in like closed. Is it early access or beta? But it seems very janky. Like, it doesn't seem like the AI kind of sucks because you literally have to like build bases on giant open terrain, on like plateaus, or your pals just freak the fuck out and can't do anything.
So my experience with this is I saw maybe 20 seconds of footage of it, and then I heard that like one of the main people behind it was like super into AI, and I was like, that's all I need to hear. I'm good not playing this game.
Yeah, apparently they had their only other game they released, or one of their other games was like an AI imposter game is how it's marketed. So you like an AI draws, I think this is what it was. An AI draws something from like if it was Lord of the Rings or whatever, it would draw like the one ring, but it's not that exactly because AI drawing it, and you'd have to like guess what franchise or what movie it's from. Was there like their only other game that they produced? So people are kind of like maybe they did AI to do this, but it's like the 3D sculpts. I don't think AI is up to the task of making 3D sculpts of like or 3D meshes of like video game characters. I don't believe. I don't know much about AI, but yeah, I mean, at least it looks like they're ripping off assets from Pokemon. Like 3D model creators are like, yeah, this is literally the same thing.
Yeah, you don't have to go into like the nitty-gritty measuring of like their skeletons to be like, "Oh, these are pretty much the same." You just have to look at them and see that they almost wholesale just they kind of RC colaed them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's even like, okay, I don't know what other thing you would capture pals into, but they literally have like pal spheres. And like they're not even calling them balls or anything, and it's like, okay, come on. Like there's gotta be some way that you can capture them without literally using Pokeballs. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, they could have made them cubes. They could have made them like a giant portal in the ground that sucks them up and puts them into whatever containment device.
Yeah, there could have been something that they could have done. I mean, I guess, did they even need to have, like, some sort of... Could they just capture them? Like, just tie them up or something? Like, everything else in the game isn't, like, super futuristic, because you're literally building, like, sweatshops to harvest iron ore or trees. And, like, part of your tech tree is to make, like, knives, but you have these spheres that you can catch pals and humans in. I don't know. It just seems a little too convenient that it's, like, has Pokemon looking... Like, the pals are pretty much Pokemon, and a lot of them look like Pokemon that they have. And then these spheres and stuff. And it's just like, I guess people are saying, like, this is what people want as Pokemon games, but it's like, I don't know. It doesn't look that much better. And I guess, I don't know. The core, maybe it's just because I'm not a big fan of Rust or Ark Survival games like that. So maybe it's not for me. But I just don't understand the hype, because it doesn't look great. The AI looks really bad, like the pathing and stuff, and it looks like the assets are just stolen. So I don't understand like why this is getting so popular, but maybe it's because I'm an old man and I was grumpy.
Yeah, I think a lot of the backlash is from people being wondering why Pokemon can't be like this. They're like, oh, well, this game is good, and it was made by a much smaller studio, so why can't Pokemon be X good because it has a bunch of money poured into it? And I know they don't exclusively mean, oh, why can't I shoot this Pikachu, but it does kind of feel like I get both sides of the argument on that part of the argument, where it's like, why can't Pokemon be this good? But it's also the market has not ever asked Pokemon to be better, so they'll just keep making Pokemon again because people will keep buying it again, and all they have to do is try to get younger and younger people into Pokemon to just keep them into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of have a monopoly on the small creatures fighting alongside you. Like, Digimon tried, but I don't know if Digimon just got too complicated and weird, and like half of the Digimon are just like humans. Dude, they just look like humans. Like,
yeah, we don't have to get
that's
into
just
how
a man.
poorly designed some of the Digimon are, but like the bottom of the barrel for Digimon is way worse than Pokemon, but the top of Digimon is like better than any Pokemon.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think
show
the
me
games
any
just...
Pokemon better than like any Pokemon better than like what is it, Wargreymon?
Yeah, I guess the games are probably just better than like the Pokemon games were just simpler and easier to understand than Digimon games. But Did you ever play Legends of Arceus?
For a little bit, and then I threw a Pokeball in it and was like, "Ew, this is gross."
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like, people have been like, "Oh, Pokemon hasn't really done anything like this." I'm like, Isn't Legends of Arceus kind of like this game a little bit? Like, I didn't play Legends of Arceus, but from my understanding, it's like it's an open world game where you can kind of just go do whatever, but you have quests and stuff. I don't know if you can build bases, but and it was like similar, right? Where you literally fought the Pokemon like out in the wild. It wasn't
Yeah,
like
out in the
turn-based
open.
stuff as much.
Yeah, yeah, it was less turn-basedy, and it it was a pretty Breath of the Wild-y, which if that's the kind of game they were aiming for, they made good strides to get towards it. And then, did you play Scarlet and Violet?
Yeah, it was bad. It was not great.
Yeah.
So, but no, I
I
just don't
mean,
understand. People are like, oh, Pokemon's never done anything like Palworld. I'm like, isn't Legends of Arceus kind of like that? I don't know. I think people just
yeah,
really like these survival games like Ark and Rust and DayZ and stuff like that. So, I guess Pokemon just needs a Pokemon survival game. They just want Pokemon Minecraft.
yeah, everything wants to be Minecraft.
Apparently, that's what
It's
sells.
still, yeah, it's still in the top, I think, 20 selling games for 2023.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah,
I thought everyone already owned that game.
yeah, I don't know, and it's probably because people keep modding or like doing yeah, they're just like hacking it, and then they have to buy new accounts when their accounts gets banned, and they just keep doing it over and over.
Oh, that would make sense.
But yeah,
I just thought it would be like the
yeah,
generation below the generation that can get the game when they finally get old enough. That's where the big slew of Minecraft sales go every year.
yeah, but yeah. Moral of Palworld is that it's super popular right now. I think it's third all time on Steam for concurrent players at like 2 million people, and I just don't get it. It doesn't look great. The mechanics don't look amazing. I think it's just people love Pokemon, and this is Pokemon enough that they're like, hell yeah, Pokemon, but not really.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, yeah. I think maybe we're just grumpy old men, but Palwood looks like shit. And-
It doesn't look great. It
and
does not look great.
They're just, it looks like they're stealing assets. I don't know if they are. I don't want to get sued by Japan, but all of Japan just sues me. But
Yeah, just the entire country shows up at
this
your door.
entire country sues me on behalf of this one small indie company. But yeah, I just don't get it. I don't get it. Maybe I'm an old man, but who knows?
Yeah, I pulled up some screenshots. These are some Pokemon-ass Pokemon.
Yeah, like someone did like a side by side
That's
of
a
like all the
Lucario.
Pokemon, and it's like, yeah, these, like this is Eevee. Well, there's one that's super obvious, but I don't know how you make a sheep Pokemon or a sheep pal
Without making
that
it look
doesn't
like Wooloo?
like Wooloo. Yeah, if you want a sheep, I guess like that one you can't really get mad about him. If you want a sheep Pokemon, you kind of or a sheep pal, it kind of has to look like that. There's no other way to really do that.
Yeah, because the other way is if they just copied what's the Gen 2 sheep?
Gen 2 sheep.
Yeah, Mareep.
Oh, Mareep. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
But yeah.
I can't tell which one of these are fake because they look so similar to Pokemon.
I mean, and even like their cover like has that like Raichu looking ass guy who's like yellow, like a like Raichu or Pikachu, and it's like that's gonna be your like mascot for the front of your game is a Pikachu lookalike. Really, you couldn't have thought of anything else.
Yeah, he's given a lot of Electabuzz energy.
Oh, that too, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's probably hard to
Yeah.
make. I mean, I feel like Digimon. If you see a Digimon, you know that's a Digimon.
Yeah, because they're like, here's at least a sword and or a gun, or female anatomy. I said, yeah, you can't confuse the Digimon with Pokemon because they either give them a knife, a gun, or boobs.
Yeah, that's fair. And it's like you would think that in this game with Pokemon or pals with guns and swords, that people would be like, "Oh, this looks like Digimon," but nobody said that because they look like Pokemon.
Yeah, no.
I don't know.
You slap Digimon on this game and just call it Digimon, uh, Digimon Royale or whatever.
Digimon
I don't know if
Fortnite
anyone's talking about it.
Battle Royale.
Yeah. Warfare, you know?
Also, I didn't hear about this game. Did you hear about this game before it got to early access, or did it just kind of pick up steam the last like couple weeks or week?
Uh, yeah, something. It just when it came out, I just heard people talking about it.
Yeah, I have no idea where it came from. So, but yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. I don't get it. I don't understand why it's popular, and I don't know. I feel like people are against when people like AI art stealing does like stealing stuff from other people, but they're cool with this game because they like how it plays, and they're like, oh, we don't care if they steal from like Nintendo.
Yeah, it gives like it. Oh, it benefits me in this way, but this doesn't harm me, so I don't really care. Because just because Nintendo's a big Pokemon doesn't is a big company doesn't mean you should have license to just steal their stuff.
Yeah, it gives me like it's okay to rob Walmart or like shoplift from Walmart because they're a big company, but it's like okay, you still understand that like morally you probably shouldn't steal stuff. Just like in general, it's not a good thing. Even if like Walmart's a big company, you're kind of affecting the people who work at that specific Walmart more than anything. And I assume that these people understand that the people who are making these Pokemon are not the people at the top of Nintendo who are making like millions of dollars. These are like normal artists and animators and stuff like this that are, you're stealing their designs. It's owned by Nintendo, but you're pretty much stealing their designs. It'd be like trying to like
Yeah,
pass off like
Mister.
Magic the Gathering art and like say like, oh, it's okay, it's Magic. Like Wizard of the Coast makes so much money. It's like, yeah, but an artist made that. Like, why is it okay to steal their work, even if it's from a big company? Like, it still seems morally wrong.
Yeah, and speaking of Magic, like there are reasons that Magic and Pokemon cards have the artist's name on there to give them credit, so you can find who they are, so you can go support them. I found one of my favorite artists from Magic the Gathering card. His name is Dave Raposa. He streams on YouTube if you want to check him out. He makes very, I don't want to say Magic the Gathering ass looking cards, but he makes some really cool art. The card I noticed him from was the Blanca art, and I was like, I gotta see what else this guy has done. And then it turns out he did stuff for the Lord of the Rings set, which I recently got back into Lord of the Rings.
That was a
really
beautiful
enjoying
segue. That was just a marvelous segue there. I set you up with the Magic the Gathering segue, and you're like, oh, I know how to get to our next topic from this. That was beautiful. Continue.
Thank you. So, my girlfriend and I have watched all of the Lord of the Rings films, the extended editions, the Hobbit films, and the new Rings of Power TV show. The first season. I believe a second season is coming along, but
I would think so. I think they spent like fucking the GDP of Zimbabwe on the first season, so I figured they have to have a second season of that to recoup some of that money.
yeah, at first I couldn't tell. I was like, this show looks fine. And then as it went on, I was like, oh, this show really just went in on the backgrounds and the costuming. I guess let's start with the show. My biggest gripe is that small parts of it feel like fanfic. where you will get to a certain location or a certain item will come up that happens later on in Lord of the Rings, and the show will be like, "Oh, look at this.
Do you remember this thing? Remember this from the movie you loved? Don't you want to love this TV show because we have the same thing?
Yeah, it's just fan service. And I was like, oh, it would have been cooler if you just, showed it like a slightly in the background, or, didn't go out of your way to point this out.
Yeah, and so the only thing I haven't watched of the Lord of the Rings with that is the show. And I just heard that it wasn't great because the main character, like, is unlikable and kind of like what they call him, a Mary Sue, where like they can do no wrong, they're always right, they're the toughest person ever, and they're gonna like destroy everyone. Like I remember a scene where like, is it Gladriel? Is that who the main? She like just jumps off the boat in the middle of an ocean, and this guy who's like reviewing the show is like, "What? Why would she do that? That doesn't make any sense." But like, she's just gonna swim for like hundreds of miles to get back to shore, and it's totally fine. Or how she like, doesn't she kill like a frost troll, and like all the other guys are like, "We need to go back," and she's like, "No, we must press forward. You weaklings can leave, but I'll take on the troll myself," or some shit.
Yeah, she does give off that energy, but it is also a fantasy show with elves and ogres and shit. So
that's fair.
I kind of just go, it is what it is. For me, the majority of the appeal of Lord of the Rings is getting to see the world and all the interactions, and how like certain small interactions can lead to big ramifications for the rest of Middle Earth. Whereas like if Bilbo never found the ring, then Frodo couldn't have taken it, stuff like that.
Well, yeah, even I don't remember what Lord of the Rings movie it is, but when Smeagol, I don't remember what his real name was, like he finds the ring in the bottom of the river anyways, and that's how it kind of kickstarts the whole like show, or like the whole series. Is like because he found the ring in the river, and then all these domino effects happen because one hobbit found it.
Yeah, and it's he now, because he has the ring, doesn't age and stuff, and the ring kind of has a mind of its own and calls to people. I haven't read the books, so I can't go into detail on how accurate the films are.
Well, I was gonna say I haven't read the books either, but the only thing I know that happens that's like when they get, I think it's after they take the ring to Mordor and throw it in the volcano. I think they get back to like Hobbiton, and like shit's got like everything's messed up. Like they've been raided, and they have to fight like a mini war to get, like when they get back home because everything's like destroyed. But I think they decided to cut that out and just had a happy ending. But that's like the only thing I know that's like a big discrepancy with like the movies and the books.
Yeah, I can see that. I feel like when you've watched a film for so long and they finally do the thing they need to do, and then they get home and they have to fight another battle, and you're like, this film will never end. Why will it never end? You just kind of want to get to the point where you're like, throw the ring in the fire and then show me the credits.
I mean, yeah, that was like a major thing you could definitely cut, is that like you don't really need to have another whole scene where they have to fight. I don't know if it's Uruk-hai that show up or what happens, but yeah, they don't need to fight another war after they dump the ring off.
So how do you feel about the Hobbit films?
So I'm trying to remember if I've seen all of them. So I definitely seen the one when they're in the castle with all the gold, and it's like the battle of the three armies. Is that what it is?
It's the 5 armies.
5 armies. I've seen that one, and I've seen the one where like Smaug destroys that like city that's like on. It's literally Pacific Log Town from Ruby and Sapphire. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So is that the same movie? Is that the beginning of that movie?
Yes.
And that's the beginning of the third one, right?
Yes. Because
Gotcha.
the first one ends with you seeing Smaug for the first time, and then the second one ends with him flying, or like into the village, and then they kill him in the beginning of it, and then the war breaks out.
Yeah. So maybe I've only ever seen the third one. I thought I'd seen the second one maybe, but I just know that people did not like it, and they decided to make it a 3-part series, and it was like a book that was like shorter than any of the Lord of the Rings books by themselves. So probably did not need a 3-part movie, but I think they probably just want to capitalize on it because what else are they gonna produce with Lord of the Rings unless they do this TV show like that? So
Yeah, I didn't hate the Hobbit films. There were parts I enjoyed, but there were definitely parts where I was like, this could have been cut down severely. But then again, like what film couldn't you have cut down even just by like 5 minutes? So
yeah.
it is what it is.
Well, also, isn't like the Hobbit movies nothing like the books? Because doesn't like one of the dwarves or whatever try to like bang one of the elves, and they're like, "What? No, that never happens." And isn't one of the dwarves look like just a man, but he's slightly shorter, and he's like the main character guy?
Ooh, I think so. From what I understand, like the Hobbit book is supposed to be more like story time for children, and these films were like, okay, how do we get to the next battle?
Yeah, that's fair. Well, so I don't understand. I guess it kind of makes sense, but you would think that Peter Jackson, when he would have started the Lord of the Rings trilogy, that they would have just like right after that made like a one-off prequel to it just to show how like Bilbo got the ring in the first place. Because at the beginning of the first movie, right? Like, if you'd never heard about Lord of the Rings, why are you watching the Lord of the Rings movie? But like, it just kind of shows that he has the ring, and it's like, what the fuck is happening? Why is his face turning like an evil man? It's, you remember talking about that almost like a
Yeah,
jump
when
scare
his
scene,
face turns into like a
like a
wrinkled,
like a white,
like a white raisin. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. I feel like it would have been better just like a one-off movie to show that, just to show like how Bilbo got the ring. Like, I don't know if you needed the whole 3-part movie. Because, like I said, I've never read the book, so I don't know if, like, I think the War of the Five Armies is, like, a big thing, but that could have been, like, the majority of the movie. You make a 3-hour movie, like, I don't know, you could have got Smaug and the battle in a 3-hour movie, right? Do you think I'm crazy?
I think even if they just cut it down to 2 films, cut out the necromancer stuff, speed up the white orc thing, you can get Smaug and the Five Armies done in the second film.
Yeah, I just feel like movies are, I don't know, movies are such an awful way to tell stories. I don't know, I feel like a TV show is way better at telling stories than a movie. Like, movies, it's almost like movies have to be like Transformers or Die Hard or Lethal Weapon, where it's like a lot of action and not a lot of like character development. Because you compare that with like any TV show. Like, even if it's like a 1-season TV show, you have, 8 seasons or 8 episodes a season, and you have an hour each episode or something like that. You have 8 hours of character development. And the Lord of the Rings, even with all the extended editions, what are they 3-hour movies or 4-hour movies?
I think they're 3-hour movies.
So like, you have 9 hours of character development, right? Like, which is like almost as much as like 1 season of like, name a TV show, Breaking Bad or whatever. But Breaking Bad had 5 more seasons to develop characters. I don't know. I think movies just suck. I'm not a movie fan. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, I'm picking that up now.
Yeah, it's just like,
If
they're
it's
just
not,
horrible.
If it's not Digimon the movie, get it out of here.
That's fair.
That's what I always say.
I did watch the Godzilla -1 movie. Did you end up seeing that?
I didn't end up seeing it just because my schedule was so busy.
Yeah. I won't spoil it and I won't go too much into it, but just thinking about Lord of the Rings, it's like, man, Godzilla -1 was, I think it was like a 2-hour movie, but they covered a lot and like developed characters in like small scenes that were like always important to the plot. There's not a lot of side stuff, but in those like important parts, they're developing the characters so you understand what's going on. And I feel like some of these other movies, like you just don't get that, and it's just like a lot of wasted scenes, and it's like, okay, what are we doing? And then it's like 3 hours for nothing. Or like the hero gives like sacrifices their life, but you're like, I don't care. Why? I don't know who this man is. He's been on the screen for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I get it.
I don't know. I kind of felt that way when Boromir died. Is it Boromir?
Yeah.
Sean Bean?
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of Boromir's character.
Because, I mean, he kind of is an ass, and then he kind of becomes good, but the time where he, like, is good is so short, it's like, oh, well, okay, bye, I guess.
It confuses me when people, like, consider him part of the Fellowship, and I was like, what? He's kind of an asshole.
And also, he dies pretty early. I mean, they get to that. He's not with him in the mines, are they?
No, he's not.
He dies before the mines of Moria, which, I don't know. I always felt like the mines were, like, halfway. Because they haven't even, like, went across those cliffs yet. They almost all fall off, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I'll say it. I'm a Boromir hater.
That's okay. I have a very controversial statement.
What's that?
I'm not a Frodo fan.
I don't think that's controversial at all. I think that's like the accepted opinion by Lord of the Rings fans. Because it's always like Samwise.
Samwise?
Yeah, everyone's like Samwise is the hero. he does everything. Yeah. He's the only one that does fucking anything. He's like, Master Frodo, I'll carry you up those mountains. He's Southern now. I don't know what happened there. All my accents evolve in the Forest Gump.
They all just turn Southern. Yeah.
Yeah, they always. But like, yeah, he carries him up the mountain. Like if for whatever reason Sam had the ring instead, the movie would have been like an hour and a half because Sam would have just got shit done. He wouldn't have got stabbed. He would have done the stabbing.
Just murdered fucking Gollum immediately.
Exactly. And it's, I mean, I guess the only thing that he's bad at is talking to women, but, you know, that happens, I guess.
Yeah. It's a relatable character trait.
Yeah, I mean, is there really any character, like, I don't know, I didn't really like any of the characters in Lord of the Rings. Like, I was never, like, super attached to any one or the other. They're all kind of, like, smimey bastards a little bit. Like, the hobbits are just kind of annoying. Like, Legolas is just kind of annoying sometimes.
You didn't like Legolas?
He's okay. But, like, I don't know. I'm an elf hater. I really enjoyed
his relationship with, what's his name?
I was trying to think of the dwarf's name, and I can't think of it. Gimli.
Yes, Gimli. I enjoyed him and Gimli's, like, back and forth. I'm not a huge fan of, what's the wizard's name?
Gandalf? Yeah. I get it.
I just feel like he comes and goes like an absent parent.
Yeah.
Because why? I don't know. Like, maybe he's too powerful for the scenario, but then just don't put him in these scenarios. But it seems like he's like, hey guys, I'll be right back. And then when they actually need him, he's not there until they're like in a corner and can't go anywhere. And then the eagles show up and he's like, I got you, bro.
I mean, but does he do anything? Does he really do anything the whole time? He doesn't do any wizard shit. He just kind of does nothing. He fights
the Balrog with a sword.
Doesn't he just fall? He just falls down a ravine with the Balrog. He doesn't fight the Balrog. I could have done what Gandalf did with the Balrog. I could have stood on a bridge and fell. I can do that. I don't know. I mean, and then I don't know. I think there's like theories where like Gandalf did that on purpose to come back as a stronger version to help fight against. But yeah.
So
I guess
speaking of things.
Oh, I was going to say one more thing before we left Lord of the Ring.
Yeah.
How did your girlfriend like it? She's never watched any of them before, right?
Yeah, she had never seen any of them. And we had watched another series of films, and then I was like, okay, now I choose what series of films we watch. And then we started with The Fellowship, and I said, if we just watched The Fellowship of the Rings and you don't like this, we don't have to keep watching these. And then we watched everything else. So that should kind of tell you how we both enjoyed this series.
Fair. I say, did she have any different opinions than what we had about the characters or anything?
Without asking her directly, I don't. She hates Frodo. She's like, fuck Frodo. He's so stupid.
Yeah. I also feel like this the way he talks too is annoying. But yeah, were you gonna change topics?
Yeah, let's switch over to talking about one fantasy world to another. Let's talk about Warhammer and your
what I was
scalping.
Yeah, okay. So there's like a weird Games Workshop is the people who make Warhammer, right? So it's your little figurines that you have. They're the worst at selling products. Their one job is to sell products and they suck at it. Like they never have enough inventory for like releases, and then like their website always crashes. And there's kind of a new thing that happened where they actually did things well, which is surprising. So there's like the Horus Heresy.
What did they change about what they did to improve their process, I guess?
That was a great comment. Thank you. That was a good response. I enjoyed that. Well, there's a series called the Horus Heresy. So it's like takes place in 30,000, so 30K. It's before like the events of 40K. And in the Horus Heresy, I think there's like 40 some books, maybe 50. I'm on like book 34. And then there's a series after that called the Siege of Terra. So the Cliff Notes, Horus was a good guy, he turned bad guy, he tried to invade Terra to fight the Emperor. I don't want to spoil anything else, but the Siege of Terra is him coming to Terra to try to siege. I think there's like 12 books of that. Anyways, all this to say that the last book was recently released. So I think the series has been going on since like 2006 or some shit. So it's been a long time. The book was finally released. It had like a collector's edition, and it went like on pre-sale or whatever. And scalpers got like a vast majority of the books. It it went very poorly, but they like went back and found all the bots, and they revoked all the orders.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so like all these scalpers are like trying to sell them online. I think it was like £50 because like Games Workshop's in the UK, so they use pounds. I don't. That's a story for another day. The British suck. I hate the British. I'm sorry. I hate you because you were born in England. But the British, their currency makes no goddamn sense. It's like, oh, that is the 3 scallywags and 7 pences, and it's like, goddamn. I hate them. Anyways, the book was £50, and people were like trying to resell them for like £300 online, and like they literally like stopped all of these, and then they implemented like a new like, I guess like CAPTCHA thing to like stop bots from getting in, and they just like pretty much just restarted the pre-order process. So it's like, wow, they actually did a good thing for once.
So what's gonna stop more scalp bots from showing up?
So yeah, so they did some other thing where I think like they limited the amount that you could buy at one time, and they also like when you sign in, you have to do an additional like CAPTCHA thing to catch bots and stuff like that.
Okay.
So,
cool.
And to be honest, I don't know. I watched a video the other day where this guy was talking about like botting in video games. So you know what I'm talking about, like botting.
Yeah.
So I think it was
maybe someone listening wouldn't know. So give a quick explanation.
So like in World of Warcraft or something, you could have your game open, but you're not playing it, and you're kind of letting a bot, like a macro or something, control your character and farm the materials for you, or farm gold or things like that. And sometimes you can get like people who have multiple bots on multiple accounts, so you'll get to like an area that's like, oh, this area is a good place to farm like this certain material that you might need, and it might just have like 100 bots all there trying to do the same thing. and it's like really detrimental to like games because like it ruins the economy, and then maybe that specific area, if you're trying to quest there, there's all these bots that you can't like get any of the quest items or whatever. And this guy was like, made a good point that like they don't ban bots one by one, they want to bulk ban them. So maybe like over a course of like 2 weeks they find all the bots, and then they just wait and then ban them all on this specific day. And that way, they ban it and patch whatever the bots were doing, and then they go back and like, okay, we ban all of them, so now the botters are gonna have to find a new way to bot, and this is gonna give us like maybe a couple weeks of no bots. But if you ban them one at a time, they might be able to figure it out, and that way you have constant stream of bots the whole time. The reason I bring this up is like it might be maybe Games Workshop did that, maybe on accident, but it's like, all right, they figured out what the bots are doing and how they're getting past their system, and now they're like, okay, we figured it out. We're gonna refund all of the bots so they don't get any of those purchases. We're gonna change it up, and now everyone should be able to purchase this without having to worry about bots. So I don't know if they did it like that, but I mean that'd be like a smart thing to do. Is like let the bots come in, see what the bots are doing to abuse that, change it, and like refund it and get new pre-orders, and then it's no more scalpers or bots. I don't know. I just thought that was super interesting. I don't know if anyone else will care about that, but I thought it was cool.
It's pretty interesting. I didn't know this was about the Warhammer books, so that kind of... I feel like maybe if an individual is trying to buy it and they're not representing like a bookstore entity, I don't see why they shouldn't be allowed to like purchase, like checkout deal, be like, you only get one book because you're one person.
Yeah.
So if you want to get another one,
that these are like these are a specific like version of this book. So like the collector's edition of this book, it's like a leather bound book, like super fancy. Like eventually they'll release the book like normal, and you can just buy a normal book, and they probably don't care how many copies of that you buy. But this is like a limited supply of these books. Maybe, I don't know, maybe like 200 of them or something. So I think that's why a little bit more of it, like whether only allowing one person to buy it at a time or just maybe buy two, to prevent scalping situations and things like that. Because in the past it's been a problem with like the miniatures as well. They'll have these like box sets that like reduce the price. So like, if you buy the mini separately, maybe it's like $300, but in this box like 150, and there's only a certain amount of supplies. So the same things will happen. Where, like, people will buy a bunch and then scalp them because there's no other supply. So I don't know. I think it's probably a good idea, but yeah, it would kind of suck if you like wanted 2 copies and they only allow 1 or something.
Yeah, I can see that, but I just feel like, each individual purchase has to be limited to 1 book, but then like me as a person going back in and then rebuying it wouldn't be as difficult as a bot that just tries to just like max value everything in one go.
Yeah.
If that makes if you're trying to like speed up, whereas like when they do these drops, I'm sure there's a bunch of like real people also sitting there waiting for the drop to come out to be like, I'll put that in my cart.
Yeah. And that's like a thing where it's like, I think there's even like a queuing system where you sit in a queue and you're like, you're the 5th person to like be able to buy this. And it's like the first like 4 people buy their book, and then it's your turn, and it's like the same. So it's probably not even possible unless you have like 2 accounts logged in at the same time to get like 2 copies, I guess. Because I think they went pretty fast. But I know like Games Workshop is like cracking down on this stuff because with the advent of like 3D printing, they're kind of like cracking down on it, because like you could just like make your own models with a 3D printer instead of paying like $60 for 5 models. You could just sink the cost of getting a 3D printer, and if you're gonna print a lot, or you can sell a lot with your 3D printer, you could just like make the figures without having to pay Games Workshop, which has been a big problem. And it's kind of weird because people would think it would fall under like the same thing we're talking about with Palworld, where they're just stealing assets, but it's like it's almost like people are doing it as a response to like the ridiculous prices. which I mean, it's still probably not great, but like, I guess maybe it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Warhammer and other small figure games, it's there's not like a clear entry point, I guess. Whereas like if you wanted to get into something like commander format in Magic the Gathering, you can get into it with um a commander precon deck, and then you can upgrade it from there. But if you want to just get that, that's a one and done purchase, and then you can now use that product if you understand how the game mechanics work. But when it comes to Warhammer, it's not only like a big cost, but it's also how do you start it? How do I if I want to get two precons for, like, if you and I were to play against each other, we can go to the store and get two precons, one for each of us, and then we can play against each other. But when it comes to Warhammer, there are you have to figure out what armies you need, how they work. You have to buy brushes, you have to learn techniques on how to paint, and I really enjoy, it's soothing to watch people paint Warhammer, but I have also not seen people play Warhammer, so maybe they need to push the more play aspect of Warhammer, if that makes any sense. And maybe they just need to do like a big bundle where maybe on the bundle they might take a quote unquote loss or a reduced amount of profit compared to their normal, this sells for 50 and it's 5 pieces. Maybe do like a $50 bundle where it's two small armies with basic paints that you can use, so that way one person can walk in and get, all they would need to play with their friend.
So they do kind of have that. So they have like a starter
do?
edition. I think this starter edition was like $250 though. But the problem is that, I mean, that's expensive. The problem with Warhammer is that generally people play what something called 2,000 points. So each model is worth so many points, and to get like a 2,000 point army, you're probably looking at like $500 of models, probably more with some armies. Some armies are more expensive than others. And that doesn't count the paints. I mean, you don't have to paint them if you don't want to just play against your friends. If you wanted to play in tournaments that are sponsored by Games Workshop, you have to use at least 3 colors on your model and have them fully painted, and I think based as well. So like something on the base. So yeah, that's kind of the problem. If you want to play like Warhammer, like what it's supposed to be, like 2,000 points, it's a big hurdle to get in. They have this game mode called Combat Patrol, which is each faction has a Combat Patrol box. So you just buy the box and you play with what models are in there, but the rules are slightly different. The same thing for a game mode called Kill Team. They're just like, I think it's like the lowest amount of figure or minis you can have is like 4 for some armies and up to like 14. And you can just buy like one $60 box to play that, but once again, the rules are different. So I guess it's a little bit different than Magic. Like, if you wanted to play Warhammer, like 40k at its like fullest of 2,000 points, you could not just buy one thing to get it, which is kind of shitty. Cause like if you want to play Commander in Magic, you just buy a Commander deck. If you want to play Constructed, you could probably, is there constructed decks you could just buy? I mean, they're probably not going to be the greatest, but you can just buy constructed decks.
I mean, you can order constructed decks for relatively cheap. I mean, Magic, if you want to go full power, you can spend near infinite amount of money, just like you can with other card games. But if you want to, it's a very community-based thing with Commander. You kind of go up to your table or your group of people you want to play with, and you say, okay, my power level is X, Y, or Z, roughly you can say, I have, my deck can win on turn 10, and then everyone else can kind of judge off of that what they would want to play against you. And you know, I go super budget when I play Magic the Gathering, because it is, you know, pieces of cardboard.
Fair.
So one of the decks I play that it wasn't a pre-con was $15. So
Yeah.
not including shipping and handling and sleeves, but you know, $15 is.
Yeah, that's why I think like Warhammer people are doing this kind of like 3D printing them, is because like they want to play, and they want to have models that like look at least close to the models that they would have from Games Workshop. But to play like a full game of 40K, you need so many models for so many price, or so much so much money, and it's kind of ridiculous to get to that point. But I don't know, they got to make money, but like I don't know. I was watching a video where like they showed like the prices of like the models and the miniatures like across the years, and it's like within like since COVID, it's probably like increased by like 15%, and it's just like I guess with inflation, but I don't know, it just seems pretty high. But I mean, I guess they have a lot of inventory they need to get rid of too, because like some factions are less popular than others, so it's like some stuff stays on the shelf longer. So I guess I kind of get it, but.
But do you think the certain factions being less popular is on the faction, or is on Games Workshop as a brand to, you know, what would you say is something that doesn't sell as much as, you know, the space dudes?
Yeah, so yeah, Space Marines definitely sell the best, but I mean it's like I don't know how many factions there are. There might be, I would say estimate like 20 factions. So I mean, you think of that like how many models, you know, there's 20 factions, and let's say like each faction has at least 15 to 20 different models. I don't know, that's a math amount of models that they have to have in stock at one given time. And some of them are like these sculpts or like these models haven't been changed since like the late 90s, early 2000s, and like they're really old and ugly looking. So that's kind of a reason a lot of people don't play them. But yeah, there's like not exciting models too, and it's just like you have so many factions. It's like almost bloated with too many factions. But it's hard to say like to get rid of a faction. If someone spent like $600 on this faction, no one plays, like that kind of screws them over. But it's like, okay, no one's playing this, or very few people are playing this. We're not selling these models. Would it make sense to cut some of these armies to like to update these armies that people play a little bit more, instead of having all these models no one's buying? I mean, I don't know. I think that might be a good idea, but I think it'd piss off some people.
Yeah, I don't think they make a move without it pissing off people. I just think if they want to push their game, they need to be more consumer friendly, because I genuinely know almost, okay, I don't know nothing about the Warhammer lore. I definitely don't know how the game plays, but what I do know is I enjoy watching people paint them, and that seems so like sit down after a long day and just paint my little soldier dude seems kind of fun. But looking at the price to just get the little plastic men, I don't know if I could justify that without that being my only hobby.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Is like the Warhammer models aren't like especially like the best market or the best models on the market too. And the reason why they're so pricey is because people like them and play the game. Like if you just wanted to paint figures, there's so many other like companies that have games or just like figures that you could paint. I mean, if you look at even like Dungeons and Dragons, you can go get one of those like pre-made like giant dragon things for like $15. You know what I mean? There's no Warhammer figure or model that you could buy or miniature you could buy that is less than $15. Even like the very small ones that are just like a single model, they're like $30. You know what I mean? And that's for like one model that's like the size of your thumb. But you could get one of those like
they are
D&D
tiny
dragons, and you could get, you know, a bronze dragon for like probably like $20 to $30. I've seen some dragons. I don't know if the bigger ones are that cheap, but it's like, yeah, you could definitely, if you wanted just to paint models and not play the game, I would not recommend getting Warhammer figures if you just wanted to paint and you're not going to play the game at all. But yeah, I guess that's kind of the thing for like the name brand of Warhammer. You have to pay like that loaded price, I guess.
Are there any other miniature figure board game-esque things that you could recommend to people that besides the D&D one?
Yeah, so Star Wars has one where the figures are pretty cheap. I think there's even like a Marvel game that has those figures that are pretty cheap. I mean, there's one for Skyrim. There's one for Fallout. There's one called Malefax that has models that are kind of unique, and they're not as expensive as Warhammer figures. And yeah, there's just like independent ones like online you can just like look up and find, and you could probably even find like Warhammer related ones that people had 3D printed for cheaper prices if you like the look of a certain faction. You know, if you like, I don't know, Space Wolves, which kind of have their own like look because they're space marines that ride wolves, you could probably find them and paint them instead for a cheaper price than getting them from Games Workshop themselves if you just wanted that faction at a cheaper price too. So I don't know, it's weird. I don't know if we're running out of time.
No, you're good. You can, if you still have, I can talk about my last point real quick.
Yeah, I think that's all.
If you want to keep talking
Warhammer.
Okay. So, moving into my last point on my checklist is poorly aged films from my childhood. Specifically, Three Ninjas Knuckle Up. So I've seen every Three Ninjas film, and as a child, I really enjoyed these movies, and they definitely didn't age very well. The first one, not terribly bad. It's a film from the 90s, so take that with a grain of salt. But I don't know which order they came out in, and I didn't pull up the list to see which order they came out in. But the Kickback one is where they travel to Japan, and the Knuckle Up one is the one where they save a Native American tribe.
Oh, hell yeah.
To give you an example about how poorly this film has aged, is they never once say the word Native Americans in it.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, are they ninjas? Like, Japan ninjas? Wait, are ninjas from Japan?
They are three little white kids.
Oh, hell yeah. So the white saviors saved the savage Native Americans?
Yes, absolutely. That's what this film was.
I mean, makes sense. That's what happened historically.
Oh yeah, of course. little white ninjas came and saved the Native Americans.
Yeah.
It aged like a fine murder.
Jesus.
And then I looked at the film after that, and I thought the Knuckle Up one aged poorly, and then I just saw Hulk Hogan on the cover of the fourth one, and I was like, you know what? We have a winner. I don't even have to watch the rest of the film. I know that it's aged the worst.
Oh my god, I'm watching the trailer right now. It's really bad looking.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like a straight to like VHS movie.
I'm fairly certain it was.
Is it? Oh, for a second I thought that was what's his name? Steven Seagal. I thought Steven Seagal was in this movie, but it's not.
Oh, you must be watching the one from the first film.
Yeah. Man, that looks real bad. Yeah.
It's something.
I mean, it definitely looks like a 90s movie. Like just like how it's filmed and like the trailer itself. And also, the kid kind of looks like a racist caricature of a Chinese person on the front of this Three Ninjas like movie box. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. He's got the weird bowl cut.
He like kind of looks like he has like buck teeth too. It literally looks like a racist caricature of a Chinese person. That's crazy. And
Yeah,
you like these movies as a child, or is this recently?
As a child, I did. I recently watched these films and was like, oh, childhood me had no taste.
Yeah, I mean it's a 5.3 out of 10 on IMDb, which isn't like that's not awful.
I mean the first one's not terrible. It's probably the most enjoyable one. I like the one where they go to Japan just to see, 90s Japan.
Bruh.
It made
made
one,
$27 million.
What?
It made
How?
It was $2.5 million budget, and it was a box office of $29 million.
That is insane.
That is insane. This one thing is like the film can't seem to make up its mind whether it wants to be a comedy, a fantasy, or an adventure film. Do you feel like that is that's true?
Yeah, it's kind of split. It's definitely made for a younger audience, and it's not one of those films where it's like it can be enjoyed by both older and younger audiences. It's more of just aiming for the childhood audience without any kind of subtext or any extra humor for adults. So it knows what its audience is, because in the 90s ninjas and things like that were very popular in the here in North America. So kind of like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle live action films. I think they must have come out around the same time, but when you compare the quality of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle films to this film, it's night and day, but also the sheer passion that went into those Ninja Turtle films, they still really hold up with time.
Yeah. Dude, I was just looking. So there's 4 of these movies. So
yes, but they're called the Three Ninjas.
Yeah, okay. The second movie made $11 million and lost $9 million from its budget. The third movie...
the second one?
The second one was Three Ninjas Kick Back.
Okay, yeah, that's the vacation one.
Three Ninjas Knuckle Up. I don't know what the budget was, but it only made $400,000.
Oof.
And then the fourth Three Ninjas movie, High Noon at Mega Mountain, made $375,000. So yeah, not necessarily great. I don't know how you lose $9 million on a movie and then they're like, yeah, let's make 2 more of these. That makes no fucking sense to me.
It's probably someone's tax write-off or something.
Fair enough. I'm trying to think who's in this. Oh yeah, Hulk Hogan. Is that Hulk Hogan? Jesus.
It is. That's why it's aged like
he doesn't have a mustache on this.
A disaster. He doesn't have a mustache in this film?
Am I crazy? It looked like if he's on the cover of Three Ninjas High Noon Mountain. Oh no. No, it was just such a low quality JPEG that it doesn't look like he had a mustache. Dude, also you would think that just having Hulk Hogan in the movie would have made it gross a lot of money. He was pretty big at that time. Right? Would that have been? Wait, would that have been during his heel turn? Was he part of NWO at that time?
I am not a huge Hulk Hogan fan, so
Same.
I'm not the person to ask.
We could talk about Vince McMahon if you want to get dark.
Oh, well.
Did
you see the reports that came out on Thursday?
Yeah, that's what I said. I don't know if we want to get into that because it's kind of dark, and I don't know what was happening with that. But yeah, okay.
Well, we already brought him up, so.
Well, I don't know if we have
garbage.
What's up?
Well, we brought Vince McMahon up already, so we might as well just finish what we were discussing about him.
Oh yeah, he's a. Okay, this is gonna sound bad. It's kind of like when people said that Hugh Hefner was like sexually assaulting his Playboy like bunnies and stuff, and I was like, I thought everyone knew that and didn't care, because I thought everyone knew Vince McMahon was a piece of shit and probably did awful stuff, but I thought no one cared. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, it was like society just gave him a free pass because they were like, well, we know he's garbage.
Yeah, it's like everyone knew he was a piece of shit, but we're just like, oh, it's fine, it's Vince McMahon. And then it's like, oh, wait. I was just kind of surprised people cared, to be honest. I wonder if it's just because like how graphic everything was, but it's like, I didn't think this was the first time Vince McMahon has been called out for something like that. Am I crazy?
Well, when you pay someone off, like the way he did, allegedly, everything we're about to say is allegedly, and I also want to discuss. I just want to be clear that we are both our own legal entities. We are not representing anyone. We are representing ourselves.
Fair.
Allegedly, when he paid her off, it just seemed like something he routinely did. So it's just, for someone to have done this, for how long he did it to just this one person, I severely doubt that it is the first time he had done something like that.
Yeah. And it seems like, I don't know how it's going to work now. Like, I feel like if this happened, you know, I think this was like in the early 2000s, this story is from. Do you remember?
It's from like post 2020.
That he did this stuff, or this got released?
That some of this information came out.
Gotcha. No,
like,
I was just thinking
that
like
some of the stuff was happening.
Gotcha.
Because they mentioned someone coming back, and the person they mentioned, that they hinted at without just saying his name. I'm not going to say his name, but the person they hinted at came back around.
I'll say his name.
Go ahead.
It's Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, he came around. I think he came back around 2020 or 2021. And
yeah,
we're not getting into all the things that Vince did, but like, you know, using someone as a bargaining chip to bring someone else back is like genuinely disgusting on a way I cannot describe.
Yeah. Honestly, like, since he's been stepped down for a while from like the WWE creative, like, I don't think he's had much input on the show. I don't know how it's going to affect the current wrestlers, but like, I could see like if this came out when he was still working closely with the wrestlers, I feel like a lot of those wrestlers probably knew something was happening or maybe slightly involved with it. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing people that like everyone really likes, like, who knew this was happening and just like looked aside to like further their career. I don't want to say like anyone is specific because I don't know, but like there's some of these like guys who are at the top of the company who was very close to Vince McMahon, and it'd be hard for me to believe that they didn't know that this stuff was happening. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm not gonna like speculate on any names that
yeah, of course. But it's
involved,
just like,
but
there's got to be.
It's like
people have to know.
He
about
was
this.
open with people that weren't in his company about what he was doing, allegedly, and to think he was not gonna brag, air quotes, brag to his employees about what he's doing when he has shown other people photos. I severely doubt that nobody knew.
Or at least
And
like if they didn't
it's
know
really kind
exactly
of
what was.
disappointing.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
it's really disappointing that none of them were like, I see this and I'm just out. It's kind of like well, I just have to turn a blind eye to it. And I know it's Vince McMahon, so he's going to create an environment where you think you cannot speak against him. But it's, I'm more concerned with the people that were okay with this behavior.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see like some of the people who like had talked about Harvey Weinstein like before everything came out about him, how people had like made jokes or made comments about how he was an awful person and things like that, and no one did anything about that back then. So like you got to think it's the same scenario as this, where like this was a thing that people knew happened, in the back, behind closed doors, but like, what are you going to say? Like, you want to be a wrestler or whatever. Like, that's what you've been doing your whole life. Are you going to talk out against it and lose your career? And some of these people have, like, very lucrative, like, contracts and stuff. Like, I'm not giving them a pass, but it seems very, like, similar to that whole situation that happened. And it might, I don't know, it might tank the whole, like, wrestling, like, I don't know, sphere, I guess.
Industry.
Yeah, industry. Or at least like
And
maybe lose some fans from WWE.
if it happens, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
If it happens, it happens. Like, things can't last forever, but it's just a kind of, just because you did something, or like in Vince McMahon's case, if it happens that all this goes through and that he gets convicted, or however it's gonna occur, if that tanks the rest of the wrestling world, that's just what happens. It is a, I don't know if this is the best term to use, but it is a carny like business. It is a sideshow business where people will, it's an affront. It originally started as people showing up to what they thought were legitimate contests of strength in actual wrestling, but it was all staged so that way they could win the bets. It's a shitty industry in and of itself, just the mere existence of it. And I know it means more than that to other people, but if it tanks the rest of the industry, that's just how it has to go, I guess. I feel bad because I know there are legitimately good people that work in the wrestling industry. Maybe not all of them are in the WWE, but I know abroad there are several smaller companies that can help, decent people trying to do this entertainment business, because it's turned from, a carny show to a physical soap opera, and more people are interested in the aspect of storytelling and impressive physical skills rather than one man pretending to be super tough and then another man pretending to be super tough. Because if you know even the slightest bit about actual fighting, you can just look at that and be like, neither of these two men are, legit. So,
yeah. I guess my last two thoughts on it are, one, it's also super creepy and weird when you start to think about the fact that, like, WWE, like, Vince McMahon had his, like, whole family working with him. Like, his daughter was a main character, like, on the show for a long time. Like, and then his son was a main character on the show for a long time. Like, fought and stuff, in-ring talent and things like that. So that's weird. I mean, his son-in-law is, like, kind of the de facto runner of the show right now with Triple H, right? And two, it's like, for the longest time, the women on WWE, like I assume, I don't want to assume, I guess, but they always been like put as like almost like eye candy type thing. Like never really respected for actually like wrestling like the guys do. So just to add that on top of this, where like I don't know, Vince McMahon is like 75, and he's always acted like he was an old man when it comes to like the female talent and stuff and how he treated them. So I don't know, like it's just like I wonder if there's gonna be more stuff that comes out involving that kind of stuff, but who knows? Kind of a dark thing to end the podcast with.
Yeah. But I'm sure there's going to be more and more to come. But maybe we can end this on a positive note.
Yeah.
Not about wrestling, but so any recommendations?
Oh, yes, the homework. Okay. So do you know what math rock is?
I have no idea what math rock is now.
I'm going to see if there's a math rock definition. Okay, math rock is a style of alternative and indie rock with roots in bands such as King Crimson and Rush. You know Rush. It is characterized...
Wait, King Crimson and Rush?
Yeah.
They count as math rock?
They're like the...
I guess I've heard some math rock.
They're like their roots are in that. So it is characterized by complex, atypical rhythm structures, counterpoints, odd time signatures, and stuff. Anyways, the only reason I'm telling you this is because there's this album by this band called Clever Girl, which is... What's that a reference to, Harris? You got this.
Jurassic Park.
Exactly. Their band logo is a velociraptor solving a Rubik's Cube. It's... Anyways, they have one album they put out. They put out 4 songs ever. And it may be my favorite album of all time. It's called No Drum and Bass in the Jazz Room. It's 22 minutes.
Bass in the jazz room.
That's, yeah, No Drum and Bass in the Jazz Room. That's my recommendation. I don't know. If you want to listen to it by the next time we record and we can talk about it, I don't know. It's just so nice. Because there's no lyrics or anything. It's just like drums, bass, and guitar and stuff. So I don't know. And if anyone's listening to this and you got this far, God save your soul, because you just listened to an hour and a half of this. But also listen to it, and then maybe you'll have opinions about it, because I like it. It's good. All right, that's all I got.
All right, sounds good.
Do you have anything?
My recommendation is a YouTube channel called North of the Border. He makes little miniatures, and it's fun to put that on in the background and get things done.
Oh, is that the guy who does, is he do like makes he dinosaur stuff sometimes? Or is this a different guy?
Yeah, he made like a shark, but it's a dragon.
Yes, I've seen this guy. I like this guy.
Yeah.
I sometimes put it on in the background while I work on other things.
Well, I guess you've already done the homework then.
Well, is there a specific one that you really like that we would want to watch?
Ooh, I do like the shark one.
Is this the Sharkosaurus Rex?
No, I made a shark, but it's also a dragon.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I see that right up there.
That's the title of it.
Yeah, so 15 minutes. So yeah, if you listen to this, watch. I made a shark, but it's also a dragon on the YouTube channel North of the Border. And then listen to the Clever Girl album, No Drum and Bass in the Jazz Room. You can find it on YouTube, which I don't know how many... I think it has a decent amount of views on it, too. It's got 1.1 million views, and this band released one album and then disappeared forever. So, it's pretty cool.
And it's... Okay.
So, yeah. I mean, that's all I got. Anything else?
All right. Sounds good.
All right.